Welcome back. As the war with Iran continues, security officials here in the United States are on high alert, watching closely for any threats that could reach American soil. Here in New York City, that vigilance is happening largely behind closed doors, inside one of the most sophisticated counterterrorism operations in the world. MS Now senior investigative reporter Mark Santia was recently granted exclusive, rare access here, and he filed this report.
As the war rages in the Middle East, a high-stakes, confidential meeting is taking place in the heart of New York City.
Seems like it was a busy weekend again.
MS Now given exclusive access to this briefing inside NYPD headquarters, One Police Plaza.
Anything to flag from Doha?
Because of heightened security, we are not allowed to identify the officers.
We're getting roughly like 4 or 5 missile attacks a day and roughly like 20 odd drone attacks.
As the head of intelligence and counterterrorism at the NYPD, Rebecca Weiner oversees several investigative teams, including the Liaison Program, a law enforcement initiative found at no other police department in America.
Having real-time, reliable information from around the world is incredibly important to help us figure out how to better protect New York City.
From inside the Joint Operations Center, Weiner explains how the NYPD Liaison Program embeds New York's finest with outside agencies in 16 strategic cities across the globe, including 4 locations in the Middle East.
Amman, Jordan, Tel Aviv, Doha, Abu Dhabi.
With the war in Iran, Weiner says this program has taken center stage in keeping New York City safe.
What we've seen time and time again is that threats that bubble up around the world make their way to New York City.
That, Weiner says, is the program's mission. NYPD officers from thousands of miles away gather intelligence and immediately relay it back to One Police Plaza.
The closer we can understand it to the ground, where it's emanating from, the better we can protect.
Since the war in Iran started, there have been multiple terror attacks here in America, including a deadly shooting at a Texas bar, alleged IEDs thrown at protesters near the home of New York City's mayor, a deadly shooting on the campus of Old Dominion, and a truck attack on a Michigan synagogue and school. As the conflict rages in the Middle East,
Yes.
What keeps you up at night?
I mean, this is really unprecedented in many ways. The fact that you have idiosyncratic individuals, lone actors who are radicalizing, mobilizing toward violence.
The NYPD Liaison Program formed in the wake of tragedy, the September 11th attacks. Since it started, Weiner says, the team has shared intelligence gathered with law enforcement agencies around the world, helping to stop extremist plots.
A vehicle ramming incident in Germany that was thwarted, a terrorist cell in Spain that was dismantled.
And there have been success stories on American soil as well. The New York City Police Foundation, a nonprofit group, funds a liaison program, a program that Weiner stresses is crucial, especially now.
The threat environment is incredibly varied. It's very dynamic, and it is at one of the more elevated places that we've seen in the last 2 decades. Take care, guys. Thank you for all the amazing work.
In New York City, Mark Santia, MS Now.
Our thanks to Mark for that report. So, Mara, I mean, anytime there's a conflict overseas or a heightened terror alert, always thoughts what could happen here in the United States, and in particular New York City, the nation's biggest city, and in many ways perhaps the most appealing target, which shines a spotlight right now on the relationship between the man who leads this city, Mayor Mamdani, and President Trump, who couldn't be more different in most ways, but to this moment have seemingly gotten along okay, at least in public. But the importance of a federal-local cooperation to thwart some of these attacks, it can't be overstated.
No, that's right. I mean, this is a city that, unfortunately has its fair share of experience thwarting these terror attacks. And, of course, the attacks of September 11th were the moment that the city kind of beefed up that capability. There's always been a heightened level here in New York. I mean, I kind of grew up in that. I was in high school when the September 11th attacks took place. And, ever since then, the NYPD has had to perform in part as a paramilitary organization. And so that hasn't changed. I think the frustration, though, among everyday New Yorkers is just that this was a war of choice. And the heightened level of security and of concern around terror attacks for a war of choice, I think that's just not a risk that Americans here in New York or anywhere wanted to take on. This is something that we've felt safe for a long time now. And no one wants to go back to the days where we were daily asking ourselves what the counterterrorism concern was. And that's just, I guess it's just, it upsets me actually too. But the NYPD is prepared as one can be. Lone wolf attacks are a completely different story. And that can happen anywhere, unfortunately, anywhere in the country. And we aren't the only target.
But it is, Donald Trump ran on ending foreign wars, right? He said he was going to end foreign wars. And that's something that is so popular, right? We all grew up in wars in other countries, that were not supported by any of us. And now he ran, he said he was going to stop this. And so I do think to watch this, and nobody can articulate why. And so there's no, and when the president can't articulate why, he can't articulate what winning would look like. And that's how we got here. And it's just, I think it's really a tragedy.